Now, this is where I need everybody to just listen to me for a second. He says this. They had him address the groups of beings by their names and where they came from, and to discuss the cosmic agreements over these programs that have been made and broken over oceans of time. He says that each of the 52 stars in our local star cluster have gone through these similar programs. He then announced, and this is, let's pause for a second. He then announced that the Super Federation, as they knew it, would soon be disbanded, and that had been done in countless of other star systems in accordance with cosmic law, further stating that soon 2 more guardian races would come to replace the blue avians and the golden triangle beings. At that point, the new guardians would guide the Super Federation through consolidating and closing down these programs. Pretty heavy stuff there. This
is incredibly heavy, and at this point, literally a third of the entire assembled massive number of ETs that were in this huge room, they all start jumping up and waving and gesticulating and screaming and pleading for mercy. And here's why. Up until this point that this happened, all of this narrative that's been given to us through Corey, which apparently similar people in the role of Enoch get the same thing dropped on them. This is the common way that this is done for any inhabited world that's getting ready to go through this ascension transition. Corey just happens to be the guy that had it happen here. But the point is, these beings expected that they were going to be our gods, and they were going to continue to run these programs for literally thousands more years of our time into the future, never really letting us know who they are, never really showing themselves, continuing to try to manipulate us, continuing to try to keep us essentially divided so that their various experiments don't blend together. And now they're being told, no, you guys screwed up. We're giving humanity the power back. You're not going to be able to play games with them anymore. So everybody starts screaming and freaking out at this point. And
what's interesting here is that while this is going on, they work through this, right? They work through it. And he says the incident seems significant to everyone present except for, us dudes from Earth, right? But we didn't understand while everybody was upset. But he says that the delegates returned to their seats and waited for him to start speaking again.
Yes, and then what we hear is, and I'll quote this because we have it all written here, that Tyr said, humanity has had much to overcome. In this new phase, the council will soon disband. This is the council he was addressing. Humanity's cosmic family will assist them in healing and guiding them through the management of their own genetic and spiritual growth. The council will attend to its members incarnated on Earth until the time that humanity requests that you remove them. Then he also says, humanity will be offered an official seat. And this is a big deal. An official seat at a new Super Federation Council. So let me stop right there. Part of the problem this whole time was that these beings, they're treating us like a lab experiment. They mixed all this really cool DNA that they found all over the galaxy. And bear in mind, when I say this, we're literally talking about hundreds of thousands, if not millions of planets that they've surveyed. They're looking at the people. They say, what makes these people amazing? What makes these people spiritual? What makes these people have an edge? And is there something in their DNA that we can grab and sample and collect? And then, can we take all that DNA and mix it all together from multiple different places and make sort of like the coolest custom-designed hot rod humans in the galaxy? And that's what we are. That's why every being out there wants to grab a hold of us, if they're not really the more enlightened types, because they're going to benefit if they can get even small samples of our DNA, as I was saying. These beings have all kind of benefited from this. They've benefited from creating this hot-rodded, if you will, like a super race, mixing all this DNA together. And now we are being given our own seat at the council, whereas before we were literally treated like we didn't matter. They would speak in a language that we couldn't even understand. And when Corey was a kid, he was taken up there, and his job was as an intuitive empath. All he had to do is try to sense deception as these beings are speaking, but he didn't even understand what they were actually saying. So for us to actually be welcomed into the Galactic Federation, if you will, to be given an official seat on the council, this is a huge burst within the narrative that Corey has been giving to us since March 2015. It's a massive leap. It's like we won the war, the Galactic War, literally. It's really stunning. I've only been looking at this stuff for 2 days, and I wake up with these dreams, and my head is spinning, and I'm just like, wow, wow, wow. Because Corey had this stuff happen. I said, dude, you got to tell me what happened.
Yeah, I said to Rita, when I got the document and read through it, I said, okay, you've got to go and sit down and read this. This, you just have to read this. It's long, but you have to read. You just have to. And I can't wait for everybody to get to Divine Cosmos so they can read all of this in its entirety. We are just literally everybody. David and I are just brushing the surface of everything here in the detail that is presented. Because at
we're
this
kind of
point,
about at the halfway point.
Well, we are, but there's a lot of details here that it fills in the blanks. But at this point, though, Corey turns to the room and says, "In service to all, in service to one." Boom, done. Meeting over. He turns down and looks at Gonzalez.
Whoa, hold on, though, because the one other really important thing was that once we join this council, we will become people that go out and help many other planets through the same things that we just went through. That was a big part, too.
Yeah, across the galaxy. Oh, I thought that you had mentioned that already.
No, I didn't.
Okay, yeah, because that's
this is really complex stuff.
And it's complete. That's the other thing. This is filling in everything, and now Earth is included. That's right. It's a very important point that we would help guide the council in all of these programs across the galaxy. So,
and then, if you read what Gonzalez says to him afterwards, he says, "Do you know what this means?" And then Corey kind of says, "Humanity will not be controlled and experimented on by dozens of ETs thinking they're gods." And Gonzalez says, do you want to read this part, Jimmy?
Yeah, he says, "They are gods from our myths." But yes, and it means that the Galactic Federation and the Sphere Being Alliance is part of and will assist us with the Draco Empire. They will not remove them for us, but provide support that allows us to clean up our own house.
So that is huge.
Huge.
Because remember, some of the stuff that Corey was getting, and we're only talking about maybe half a year ago, it was almost treading the line on fear porn. Because we started to hear that if we as a community, and I'm talking about you, Jimmy, I'm talking about everybody listening here, we who are aware of this story, who are waking up to the truth, if we didn't do our part to help spread the word, to help enlighten humanity, to create compassion, goodness, patience, forgiveness, if we're not doing that on our own, there was a negative timeline that could have happened that we were warned about as a serious threat, in which these nasty, evil, Nazi-like reptilian beings literally have created a slave planet, dramatically reduced the population, everybody's microchipped, everybody's a slave, and it's like a hopeless, very bleak prison planet at that point.
And he turns to Gonzalez, I'm speaking about Corey, he turns to Gonzalez and says, "The Sphere Being Alliance is nonviolent. How will they confront the reptilians?" And Gonzalez replies with, "The Draco will be energetically expelled from this system." and incompatible
After the
energy.
solar flash, yeah.
Right. And incompatible energy will emanate from the sun for about 1,000 years. Many reptilians will try to remain hidden on Earth in temporal fields and within heavily shielded bases deep within the Earth. Humans will be responsible for rooting them out of their hiding places. Wow.
Now, I want to point something out here. The people who just don't want to believe any of this, even those skeptics, and I've seen these comments again and again, they've said even if Corey is lying, it's like he's the greatest inventor of spontaneous science fiction since Gene Roddenberry. The story is so thorough, it's so well thought out, it dovetails so beautifully with what I've heard from so many other insiders, it dovetails so beautifully with The Law of One, which he really hasn't even read, except he kind of skimmed through the first book. I just don't feel that Corey is a person, I'm not insulting him, but I don't feel that this depth, the complexity of the narrative, how beautifully it ties into everything that's going on, I don't believe he could have made this up. Based on how complex this narrative has been, based on I'm driving in the car with him, I look over as he's telling me this stuff, we're on the way to a shoot. He doesn't even know I'm looking, and he's literally so traumatized by what he's been through. And he doesn't know I'm looking, but it's not like he's not getting any ego gratification from this. You know, he would have been on the air tonight, and he ends up in the emergency room.
Right.
That's not a coincidence, okay? 2 weeks after Emery Smith ends up in the emergency room with the same problem, the same kind of weird, massive flu. Yes, I understand there's a very bad flu going around right now, but why would it hit him right before he's supposed to be on this show, you know? And I would have preferred that he do this rather than me. And I've only seen this information for the last day or two, so I'm doing the best I can to try to fill it in here. And I'm sure he'll have a lot more to say about this because he actually experienced this stuff.
Yeah, you know what's funny is I texted him when I got this is 10 minutes before he was supposed to be on, right before I texted you, and I said, dude, the audience needs to hear from you. You got to put. Man, I'm in the emergency room. I want to. I just can't. And there you go. Well, that's it. If
and I have no preparation, Jimmy. I mean, you just called me.
Neither do I.
I'm just jumping in here.
Neither do I. I need Corey. But that's exactly the point. If it was about ego, he'd be right here on the big stage. And
you got to remember, if you're a skeptic, I get it, okay? But you got to remember, go back to the Hindu Mahabharata and the various texts. Now, pretty much everybody who's studied this stuff and watched Ancient Aliens, they know about the Vimanas. They know that the Hindu ancient texts talk about these craft that don't make a sound, that can fly through mountains, that have particle beam weapons, that have anti-gravity. They are brilliant with light. They make humming noises. And everybody knows that part. Okay, that's nothing new. But what most people don't know is that in those same Hindu texts, they describe reptilian humanoid beings called Rakshasas. And these beings are very evil and very aggressive. And the Hindu texts primarily are a collection of notes about the war with the reptilians. And the Mahabharata is literally a book about the sacred war. So this is nothing new. You have it in our ancient texts. You have it in the legends of the devil, the legends of gargoyles, of demons that people claim they saw, demons that pop up and grab people sometimes, which apparently did happen. We have legends of dragons. We have legends of serpent-headed people that took over the Mayan pyramids and then started to demand human sacrifice and put these snake heads on the pyramids. So, and we also have guys like William Tompkins, who reported debriefing 23 embedded spies in the Nazi German secret space program who were actually Americans reporting back to America. And every one of these guys is saying, man, the Nazis cut a deal with these very scary aliens that look like reptiles but in a humanoid form. So that's the weird thing, Jimmy, is I'm sorry if you haven't heard this before. I'm sorry if it sounds so crazy that you're laughing and laughing and laughing, throwing popcorn in your mouth and thinking that we're totally crazy. I get it. It sounds nuts. But it all, the more you do your homework, the more you get into this, the more insiders you speak to, the more ancient texts you study, it all makes sense. It all connects. All the dots connect. That's my point.
Now, we're going to take a break.